What's up, bosses? Welcome to another episode of About Her Business, the podcast where we leave all the gossip at the door and get straight down to business. I'm your host, Jonte, and today I have the founder and CEO of 297 Group, Miss Charise Liburd. Now, not only has Miss Libard spent more than 2 decades helping nonprofits and businesses scale funder-ready systems, she's also a proud mother, grandmother, and a survivor, and she's here today to offer us some wisdom on what she means business. So, ladies, grab those cups and those notepads, and let's get down to it. The meeting is now in session. Welcome, Miss Libert.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Welcome. Are you ready to get down to it?
Let's go. Yes, I'm ready.
Yes, ma'am. So, before becoming the CEO of the 297 Group, you worked as a government funder. What do most women entrepreneurs misunderstand about what founders are really looking for?
I believe a lot of women entrepreneurs, especially, we start businesses with passion, right? And so we have this burning passion that we want to make a change. We want to make a change in the lives of our family, in the community, whatever that might look like. But what they fail to recognize is that funders want order. They want to see order. So we love to see passion. And I say we because I was a funder for like over a decade. And
Wow.
people came to me seeking funding for their organizations, whether it's their nonprofits and so forth. And so I had to look at those applications and speak with organizations. So funders want to be able to utilize your passion, but they want to see systems behind your passion. They want to see, how are you going to get from point A to point B? Because think of a funder, whether you're a for-profit, you're a nonprofit, they're investing in your organization. So they want that return on investment. And if they can't see where that is going, clearly see what that is, they're not going to invest in your organization, whether that be a program. You say that I'm going to do X, Y, Z to change lives here. You need to have something that will be able to prove to them that if you get that money, you will do X, Y, Z to make those life changes. If you're just like a pie in the sky dream, it's not necessarily going to be something that they want to fund, because they got to be able to back it up, because that money that they're giving you, somebody else is asking them what they did with that money. So they have
Right.
to have that same impact on their side as well.
Now, your career, again, it expands over 2 decades, more than 25 years across government funding, which is a hard place to work, let alone be successful in. What early experiences do you feel shaped the leader that you eventually became?
So speaking from a personal level, before I got fallen into the work, so let me just talk a little bit about my personal experience. I suffered from emotional abandonment. I went through a marriage at a very young age where I was a survivor of domestic violence. And so I had to learn to be resilient very, very early in life. I had to figure some things out on my own. And when I say emotional abandonment, I mean my parent. There was not a lot of support there. So when I came into myself and I got married at 19 and divorced at 25, I also had 3 children to take care of by the end of that marriage. It was a lot of learning. I remember starting my career in the nonprofit funding sector at the heart of Florida United Way. So I'm in Florida, and I would walk around as an admin assistant and I would always hold my head down. I literally would walk around with my head held down for a couple reasons. One, I didn't realize I did it as much as I did, but I'm from the islands. I don't know if you can hear the accent, but I'm from the islands, right? So I'm thinking, here's this little girl, right? Little Black girl from the islands with an accent. Everybody's like, oh, you have an accent. And I didn't finish college, even though I was supposed to, because dropped out, got into a relationship and all of that stuff, ended up getting married and having to survive that. And I was just trying to survive. I was trying to survive. I met this lady who became my mentor, who was my boss. Her name was Carol James. Now think about it. This is like a 6 foot tall Black lady from Harlem, New York. Like no joke. And she took me under her. I was scared at first to meet her. Okay. She was the one that pointed out to me, stop walking around looking. She started putting me out in front of the room to just introduce the other staff when there was trainings. I remember the first time I did it, I was shaking like a leaf. But what that taught me was that I had a voice and that I could sit with my head held up high in any room. So fast forward into government, I had to recreate systems for government. I had to do all these things that they put on my shoulders. Again, raising 3 children, not enough support from their father. I would go into my office and I would literally pray, God, I need to develop something that they're going to be wow about because I need to keep this job. And I would come out of my office and I'd be like, here you go. And they would be impressed. I mean, my prayers were like, God, you don't want to be embarrassed, right? So don't like help me out. And learning that resilience, learning to take that chance on myself, really, and understanding that there are people out there that will support you, even though I didn't have that support when I was younger. And so I learned about accountability, taking up for my own actions, being responsible for my actions, and wanting a level of excellence. And because I aspire to have a level of excellence in anything that I do and anything that my name has been attached to, that is what made me become a leader. But not only because of that, because of people like Carol, other people in my life, when I started leading other people, I started training and pouring into them.
Mm.
I always would tell them, my job is to have you take over my job. I am not threatened by teaching you because just because I taught you something, it doesn't diminish my knowledge. Some people are gatekeepers, and I don't believe in that. I'm going to teach you everything I know because it's going to make my job easier. So
I
that
love
way we all could continue together and grow together.
I want to talk about you often speaking on founder ready systems. Why are these systems and structures such critical yet often overlooked parts of sustainable growth, in your opinion?
The reason why it's overlooked, like we talked about a little bit earlier, the vision and the passion does not build $1 million businesses. Systems do. So imagine, I see that you have beautiful painting in your background. So you said, I want to change this room and I want to make it mint green. I want to make it mint green. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to make people feel relaxed. It's going to do all the things. And you don't have any idea what that means. You tell somebody, this room is going to be mint green. A systems person, and I consider myself to be a systems architect, right? Is my brain works like this. Okay, she wants it to be mint green. I can see the vision. You painted the vision. But now, like, how are we going to do it? Do we go to Austin? Do we go to Home Depot? Do we go to Lowe's? Which mint green do you want? Because if you haven't been painting anything, there's 1,000 greens out there, right? So which one do you want? And then how are we going to make sure this is the one that you want? That's systems. That's what keeps your business alive, right? That is showing the proof in the pudding, so to speak. So because you could come back tomorrow and I painted forest green, but to me that was mint. That's not quite what you were looking for. It doesn't mean that it wasn't green. It wasn't what you were looking for. So when you have the vision and the passion to do something, that's fine. But if we don't have the systems, the checks and balances, things are all helter skelter and it may not end up being the result that you actually want it to be.
Mhm. And y'all, as she was speaking, was just dropping gems on me. And if y'all could see my face as she was talking, I hope y'all taking notes. I'm just going to put it like that. So we're going to move on to our next question. We're still staying on the entrepreneurial side and funding systems. So, as a systems and compliance expert, how do you help mission driven organizations protect themselves without losing their heart or humanity?
It is so important that when you get started that you do have that heart. Because let me tell you something, you will not sustain yourself if you don't believe in what you're doing. Heart is what gets us going. The systems is what keeps us going. So imagine buying this beautiful car, and I probably shouldn't say car because I don't know all about the cars. So imagine, right, that you have this beautiful car in your favorite color. I mean, the seats are leather, it's supple. Oh gosh, it's like butter. But that's your passion. That's what you want to do. The systems, the compliance is the gasoline that get that car from point A to point B. All right. So without that, we are not able to generate the revenue. Without that, we're not able to make the impact that we want to make. So when we're talking about how to keep the heart in the system, you always keep the picture in front of you. When I was a single mom, I had a picture of my kids on my desk. When I went back to school and get my multiple degrees and I was pulling my hair out to the point that I cut my hair off, I was able to look at them and say, I'm doing it for them. That's where the heart is. That's why we keep the heart in front of us. But we also have to work a process. We also have to work something to make sure that we're checking it off. Yeah, we did meet this milestone. Yes, we did do that. But you always revisit your why. Everybody's in your why. That's what the heart is. The heart is, why are you doing what you're doing? The system being able to marry together is, this is how I'm doing what I'm doing.
Oh, I love that. Again, y'all, she just dropped the gem, so I hope y'all are taking notes. I want you to talk to women entrepreneurs for a second. Many of us women, we sometimes feel intimidated by that word compliance, reporting, and those funding requirements. What mindset shift helps us move forward from being fearful to confident in those areas?
The mindset shift is to understand what compliance and reporting is, right? To truly understand what that is. The proof is in the pudding. We can say all day long, we're doing something, right? We're making all this money, making all this impact on the lives of people that we're serving as a nonprofit. How do we know? How do you know? How do you know? How can you prove that, right? That's what compliance is. It's not about I got you. It's not a punishment. It is receipts, so to speak. Your compliance are your receipts that you are doing what you intend to do, or you're making the funds that you are. Never punishment. Let's say that I want to make $10,000 this quarter. That's a low enough number, right? Let's say I want to make $10,000 this quarter. How would I know how much money I'm making as an entrepreneur if I never look at my books? If I never run a report to see the transactions balance out? Right? I would be like, "Girl, I'm making all this money." Because sometimes we are busy doing the thing, and the
Mhm.
thing is not doing anything. But that's where
True.
your reporting comes in, right? So am I doing busy work, and not producing? Do I need to make a change?
Mhm.
Compliance is your best friend. Reports are your best friend. That is telling you, yep, you're going the right direction. I don't know if you've ever seen a kid play. I have kids and young kids, and they play basketball. And the one kid always, it doesn't matter. If it's a small kid, they always end up running in the wrong direction with the ball, full speed, right? Full speed. And they're like, yes, I did everything. Go the other way. What the child was doing wasn't wrong. They got the ball and they were dribbling it down the court, but they thought it was easy because nobody was stopping them until they realized they were going the wrong direction. That is
Mhm.
what compliance and reports do for you. Tells you, wait a minute, let's ease off on this particular activity. Let's do a little bit more of this. This is going to bring in better results. And once
I
you
love it.
understand that and have that relationship, you'll begin to love it, and because you'll know where you're going.
And again, y'all, she just took a word, a couple of words actually, because I was one of those people that was fearful of the word compliance and that word reporting. And you just broke it down to a place to where now it's going to become our best friend and a tool to help us grow our business.
Absolutely.
So I want you to continue talking to our women entrepreneurs out there from a place of survival. How did running in survival mode show up in your leadership early on?
You know, I didn't even realize I was in survival mode because it just became a norm. It just becomes a norm. And I would say, unfortunately, for a lot of women, it just becomes our norm. That headache that we get, that over ambitious drive sometimes that they think it's like, why is she so driven? Because I got to feed my baby. I got to do what I have to do. Got to make it out from where the situation is. I want to be things to be different than maybe they were for us when we were growing up. But sometimes we don't take the time to understand what that looks like for us. And it wasn't until I was in therapy and like really talking it through that I was like, whoa. I mean, I knew I had some things to work out, but wait a minute. I was literally in survival mode. I was sometimes overworking to
Mhm.
prove the point. Like, it's going to be perfect. It's going to be right. My name is on this. They will never use the excuse that I'm a little black girl from a tiny dot in the middle of the water, an island, and say that's the reason why it didn't work. And so sometimes when we come from that perspective, that we're actually sometimes doing more damage to ourselves. I think understanding what we have survived. And then yes, setting those standards, those things that we want to overcome, and it showing through in your work. But don't go too far, because then sometimes that's what leads to sickness, burnout, all of those things, because we are just going and not realizing, taking time to even breathe and celebrate the accomplishments that we've made. So while we are survivors, we don't want to live in this survival mode. At some point, we just want to be like, we are here and it's time for us to be. It's
Mm.
okay. We have a past, but we are here now. We've accomplished some things. We will accomplish more things, and we could just be free to be who we are.
And all I can say to that is amen. So you mentioned a word as you were speaking, the word survival, and you shared your story with me. You've been a survivor of domestic violence and, and emotional abandonment. Can you share with our viewers how did this healing experience change not just your life, but the way you lead and the way you now build?
I would like to say that it has taught me empathy, but not empathy from the standpoint that I am a person that gets taken advantage of.
Mm,
Because I could be empathetic to your cause because I've gone through some stuff too. So I understand, right? I
mm,
understand when I'm leading people and they're on my team that you have goals and you have ambitions, and I want more for you. Like I said, I want to teach you more. So I'm empathetic to your own story. However, we don't sit there. We can't sit there. I've been accused, and I kid you not, I've been accused from very close friends of mine that sometimes they say, "You think like a dude because you're like, that's enough of the crying. I mean, I give you your time, but we can't afford to sit there because life keeps going, right?" So I'm going to be empathetic. I'm going to be a hearing ear. And then we're going to say, what do we need to do to move forward? I have a best friend. We've been friends for years. She had a few children. That's how we end up meeting. And she was working in a daycare setting for many years. She had her own survival story. She was homeless at one point with her kid, and she was just like, I need to work to do the best, but I want to do something different, but I'm stuck here. And I remember saying, hey, let's go for a drive. And she's like, where are we going? I took her to a local community college and said, let's enroll. And she's like, what? I was like, no, you want to change your lifestyle? It's time. You can do it. We can do it. We will be there for it. And she enrolled. Today she has a master's degree and she's changed her lifestyle. Her kids saw that when we were busy sitting around the table drinking coffee together, trying to finish our studies,
yeah.
right? Our kids saw us cross stage and we were able to change. So while we're surviving, that's fine, but we have to move forward too. So I am empathetic and I understand. And if I don't understand, I could still appreciate that things are hard for everyone. Everybody's story, I don't belittle anybody's story because it's different from mine. Because
Mhm.
what was hard for you might be a little bit easier for me. Or what I went through, you might, whoa, I can't do that. So we all have our stories. But I believe support. And
Mm.
God has shown me that He sent me people that supported me in ways that my blood family wasn't able to.
So I want to talk a little bit about burnout because you did make mention of that previously. It is very common amongst women entrepreneurs. Matter of fact, it's common just period amongst everybody. What were the signs for you? And what did it take to shift from constant doing to just intentionally being?
Let me tell you, this wasn't easy for me. It was not easy for me because, again, when we're trying to prove ourselves, when we're trying to build stuff, we're trying to build legacy for our families and trying to get out of this survival. Like, I got to do, I got to do, I got to go. I don't have time to be sick. I remember years ago, I had a best friend. He's still my best friend today, and we're very close. But he was in his 20s and he was starting to have some just burnout issues with his job. Very high paying job at that time. He was making like $60,000, $70,000 back in the 90s. And we're in our 20s. I'm like, whoa, why are you complaining? What you mean you need a psychologist? What are you talking about? I said, Black people don't need that. I literally said that. I had to apologize, and I did. Because what that was showing me is that I had normalized surviving and pushing down feelings and not dealing with it for so long that in my 20s I was prescribed high blood pressure medication. And so I'll give you the example when I realized I was actually in burnout. I was working for government, and this is like my last year. And we all know what happened in 2019, 2020. COVID hit, right? Around that time. And I was diagnosed with COVID and I didn't know I had COVID. And I know that was a lot of people's story. My son had started getting sick and I was like, let me go get tested. When they said positive, I was like, what you saying? Here's the deal. I had been exhausted. And that was
Mm.
one of the signs. I was so exhausted and I had a headache, but it had become such a normal part of my everyday. I just figured I'm just tired. I was like, "Oh my gosh." I'm here walking around. I was here acting like it was okay, and it wasn't until I got the positive test that I realized something you gotta give. I should not be thinking that exhaustion is normal. It had got so bad to the point people walk in my office, my subordinate said, What's going on with you? Are you okay? Your eyes are red." They looked like bloodshot, and I was having tingles going up and down my arms. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And
Mhm.
when I left the county and started my own business, one of the things that I vowed to do was to listen to my body. So if it meant taking a nap at 3 o'clock, I took a nap at 3 o'clock.
A
If it
bit.
meant my last meeting was at 2, my last meeting was at 2. Because we're carrying so much more, and people will give you more and more and more and more as long as you take it. So you
Mhm.
have to listen to your body, and that's when it became a ding, ding, ding for me. Something has got to change, and that's when I changed it.
I agree. Our bodies are they always
Mm.
give us different ways to tell us, "Hey, it's time to rest." But once sickness kicks in, because I too have burnt out, so I totally understand and get where you're coming from. Now, I want to shift over to a very happy place for you, being a mother and a grandmother.
Mhm.
What lessons from motherhood and now grandmotherhood have mostly influenced how you approach leadership and decision making?
I shared before a little bit about the fact that I was emotionally abandoned, and I was emotionally abandoned by my mom. She had 2 kids, and there's a lot of things that they say hurt people. And so she had some issues herself. She came from a family of 18 siblings. So, I mean, that in itself was a lot. So, whenever happened, I felt very lonely and to myself. I am 6 years older than my little brother. So, we didn't even grow up together like that either. So, I was
Mhm,
often by myself. And so becoming a parent, first, I'll just be completely candid with you. It started off in shame because I became a parent very young. And I was the person that was supposed to go to college and get straight A's. And I had a scholarship to college. I mean, all of these things. I dropped out of school pregnant. My second year of college, at 17 years old, I dropped out of school pregnant. I was so burnt out. I didn't want to see school ever again in life. And I was so tired trying to live up to these expectations of everyone. And becoming a mom, it was like, it dawned on me that God trusted me with this soul. When I became a mom and then subsequently got married to her father, I felt like regardless of whatever happened, the Lord felt fit enough to trust me to raise you. And so I was going to do it differently. I didn't know. Remember, I told you I did it. I was still trying to, like, what was my trauma? But I knew what I didn't like as a kid. And I don't mean I was a parent that said, do everything you want because we're not doing all of that. But it was the things that I was going to be there for my baby. I was going to be there for my babies. I didn't think I would get divorced. I didn't think it would turn to domestic violence like that. But when I left, I was going to be there for my babies. One thing you will not be able to say is that my mama wasn't there. I learned. When you learn, you do better. I apologized to my kids. I said, you know what? I didn't know better. I apologize for doing things. And again, this was born out of my own story or lack thereof with my parenting. And so I learned to do a lot of that with my children, talk to them, probably too much. I remember somebody said, you talk to your children a lot. No, I'm gonna tell you what it is. We're gonna be real about the situation, but know that you're loved and supported. And
mhm,
I do the same thing with my grandchildren. So we have been through a lot together. I had 3 kids by the time I was 25. I was married and divorced by 25. My oldest is now 28. My youngest is 23. Oldest grandson is 5. My youngest granddaughter is 9 months. So I am able to be there. And that's one thing. My grandmother was there, but she just didn't live in the same area that we were living in. And she was an older grandmother. But when I was with her, there was safety. And that's what I wanted. And the next thing is, I do everything I do for legacy. Not a lot of people were taught legacy, especially people of our culture and race, because we were taught to survive. And I know I had to move from surviving to legacy because these little ones, this world is hard already. If I can make it a little bit easier for them, then that's what I'm going to do. And I want to show them and be an example for them. So all the things that I didn't have, I gave to them, not just material things, the love, the support, all of those things, the lessons. And
mhm.
I continue to do that right now with my grandchildren as well.
And again, I agree. Being a mother myself, we give. everything of ourselves for our babies to make sure that they don't experience all the things that we had to go through, especially when it comes to places like the workplace. So I want to go back to your business for a second. How do you integrate structure, strategy, and soul without sacrificing one for the other?
I think there again, you start any dream, any business with that passion, that drive, that vision, that goal. So that in itself is part of your soul. But how do you maintain that? Keeping that why in front of you, giving it meaning. And the why changes sometimes. It needs to be bigger than you, but sometimes it changes. It's like before it was like, I want to raise my children so they could be healthy adults. Well, they're adults now. So now I want to expand it. I want to leave legacy for my grandchildren and teach them that they don't have to go through some of the things that we went through, even though they're little black kids in America, right? So these are things that continue to evolve. So that's their soul. Your soul should never leave. It should continue to evolve. If it's not evolving, then I need you to go back to drawing board and see what is the meaning of you doing anything that you do, whether it's work, whether it's a side hustle, whether it's a business. Why are you doing it? And then the strategy, it basically sets direction. Like I said, when we're talking about painting your office green, what are we going to do? Do we need to go to the store? What kind of green do we want? That's the strategy, is set the direction for where I'm trying to go. So the soul, the vision, I start off with a vision and a why. And so this, how do I get there? That strategy is the thing that tells me this is your roadmap. This is what you need to do. Can it be adjusted? Yes. Again, there's nothing that will not be adjusted on this journey. But the structure is what sustains it. The structure is the meaning. So that when the winds come and the storms hit, the structure is what sustains that. And we're constantly revisiting these three things in ourselves. Why am I still doing this? Is this something I still should be doing? I don't know. Maybe it needs to evolve. That's my soul. That's my why. That's my vision. That's my passion. The strategy, maybe we go in this direction versus that direction now. Maybe this road is ended, but the structure will always be okay. But this is how we're going to do it. We're going to stick step one, step two, step three, and we're going to build something that's sustainable. That's something that's
I,
long lasting.
I hope y'all wrote that down. But I'm going to get just one more tip from Miss Libard before we leave today. And I want you to go over to that expert side for a second and offer our women entrepreneurs out there some advice who may be feeling stuck between honoring her healing and honoring her ambition. What advice would you give her right now?
There is no you without both. You were created the way that you were created for a reason. Our creator knew what he was doing, even though sometimes we question it. He knew what he was doing. So, first things first, in my opinion, when you realize there's a area in your life that needs to be healed, because sometimes we don't always realize everything at one time. Sometimes we're like, there's something off. Sometimes we don't want to touch it. Sit with it, understand what it is, reflect on that, and then decide that it's time for this area to be healed. That doesn't stop your ambition. That actually drives your ambition. Because I want to be able to travel more, to be able to sit more, to be able to not live in survivor mode only. My ambition comes into play because I need to make more money so that I could travel, I could see the beautiful world, or take a couple days off. When I was talking about burnout earlier, I left the county with like 600 hours in the books. I wasn't taking vacation. I was just working, working, work. And they were giving me the hours, but it was so busy that I wasn't taking them because I was in survival mode. Healing comes from knowing and understanding and listening to yourself, listening to your creator or the higher power, the person that you're subscribed to. So what I've done a lot lately, and even more so made a regular part, is just sitting quietly and meditating, just sitting and listen, not talking. Don't talk. Sometimes listening, because your body, your mind, your spirit will let you know, let's work on this. And don't shy away from it. If you can't be honest with yourself, who can you be honest with as far as your healing journey is concerned? So let's decide what we want to heal, which area we're going to tap into. You may not be able to do everything one time. Go to
Mhm.
therapy, talk to a therapist, whatever that you need to do to get the help you need. That ambition comes right alongside, because the ambition, I believe, is a vehicle to get you to your next level. But what we do is that we sometimes treat it out of sync. We want to put more in ambition because it's easier to say, I'm doing this thing instead of going through the process of healing. We
Mhm,
put the healing to the side and we're like, we have drive. You will crash because
mhm.
you don't want to arrive there and not be whole.
I love it. And again, it's nothing wrong with if you need that extra help to seek therapy if you need it. Now, what does sustainable success look like to you beyond the revenue and the titles?
Sustainable success looks like me being confident in who I am, right? And I would say just me being. And I tell you, it wasn't easy for me either. When you're coming from working for other people for a while and doing all of those things, and they're telling you what you need to do, and the customers come to their store, so they're going to be there, or the projects come to them, so you don't have to worry about that paycheck. It is very easy to like just kind of like, okay, this is what we're doing. On your own, there's going to be hills and there's going to be valleys and there's going to be restructuring and there's going to be pivoting. And I just recently had to learn and sit with my own self to say, I am not the some success of my business just in dollars and cents. I could have a six-figure year and then have a four-figure year. It depends on what's going on. That's just the truth of it. You could have a large project and then you could have a small project. Whatever that looks like, that's in your job, that's in your business, that's just in life. You are not just based on that number. Everything that you've learned, everything that you experience is encapsulated in you. Every experience, every survivor journey, every healing moment, lessons learned, it's you. So whether you take a job, whether you take on a project, whether you start a new business or another business, whether you close the business, like sometimes we need to close one business so we can get into the next, whatever that looks like, understanding that you are it. Not it as in you're the only person that should do it, because we could talk about teams and stuff, but it's because you have what you need to have inside of you to make that thing happen, to delegate, to see talent, to have somebody come alongside you to give the help, because that purpose and that vision is in you. So do not shy away from the ups and the downs, because without them, you would not be who you are wherever you are on your journey right now.
And again, y'all, be unapologetically yourself. I can't tell you how much that pays to just be able to be yourself in whatever environment. Don't worry about who likes you, who's gonna be your friend after that. You'll thank yourself later.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, I want to ask you, looking back at your personal journey, what are you most proud of personally?
Looking back at my journey, I would say I am most proud of the fact that I continued walking. And I don't say that lightly. Of course, you're right. Like, well, of course, you're going to continue. You didn't die yet. You continue living. That's not what I mean. Because we could put our head in the sand and bury ourselves. We can blame all of our past hurts, and that's the reason why we're not doing what we're supposed to do. And so for me, I again, made up my mind, a purpose in myself. I was gonna be a better parent than I had as a child, and I am. Am I perfect? No, I'm not perfect. Not perfect at all. But I was better because I made up in my mind to be better. I made up in my mind that when I dropped out of college, I was so ashamed at one point that, oh my gosh, all my high school friends are gonna be like, oh my gosh, you didn't finish school? Oh my gosh, don't, we thought you would. And I was like, oh my, I can't tell anybody I didn't finish school yet. But I went to school and I'm out literally all by dissertation right now because that was a goal that I chose to do. And then I realized I'm didn't finish school. What if they did? We're all on this journey together. Life is life. So just the fact that we could continue putting one foot in front of the other. If you have to take a break and keep going. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop in bettering yourself. Don't stop in expanding your mindset. Don't stop in realizing who you are. Because if you stop and just accept certain things the way that they are, change will never happen for you. You were created to do more and be more, not just based on the parameters that others put around us. I think my greatest accomplishment is the fact that I said, we're going to continue going. And even though it was hard, I kept putting one foot in front of the other. I usually wear a turtle around my neck. The reason I wear a turtle around my neck is because I always told myself I would rub this turtle like you would think it was a Buddhist bead or something, especially when I was in school or something. It's because the story about the hare and the turtle, the race. And I would say it's not about how fast you can get there. Just keep, if I could just take one more step, I could pass this class. If I could just take one more step, I will finish this project. If I could take just one more step, I'll do the thing. And before I knew it, I was crossing the stage or I was accomplishing this thing. And I still have to remind myself of that when times get tough. One more step. Just today. Just today.
Love it. We've almost run out of time today, and I do want to leave enough time to get to our legacy question. We always leave with a legacy. When we look back at your work, what do you want us to remember most about it?
When anybody looks back at what Sharice has done, and I'm not the person who likes the whole lights, so to speak, so it's not going to be that. I just want people to remember that whatever I did it out of strength, out of character, like a solid character with a level of excellence. I'm not going to claim to be perfect because there's no such thing as perfection, but to walk in a way of integrity. And so when my name is called, it would always be, if nothing else, she was a hard worker. She said what she meant to say. She lived what she said she was going to do. And she did it from a place where she wasn't trying to hurt people, but she was trying to help people, push them forward. And that's what I want to be remembered for.
We have run out of time, but before we go, I want to make sure that we get all of Ms. Libur's details on the 297 group. Where can we sign up? All your social media. Let us know the details.
You can find me on LinkedIn at Charise Liburd. I'm on Instagram at the 297 group, THE 297 group. I am on Facebook at the same thing. So feel free to connect with me and reach out to me. I'm excited about what's coming next for us and the organization. So if there's any way that could help, we can help in some way, please feel free to do that.
Before we adjourn today's meeting, any last words, Ms. Liburd?
Just be, like you said, authentically you. Just know that whatever you're co-signing, be able to look back on it and be able to say, "It's okay, I did that." And I'm proud of it, even if it means something slightly different at the time. I've grown from it, but it's nothing that I could be ashamed of.
With that, today, ladies, the meeting is now adjourned. Thanks again to Miss Charise Liburd and the 297 group for coming on and offering us all her insights. Also, be sure to subscribe to About Her Business wherever you receive your podcast so you never miss an upload. Also, leave us some comments down in that comment section on which industry you think we should interview next. Until next time, keep those goals tight, those circles tighter, and that bank account growing.